Action. Hello, and welcome again to the Fat Minute, the official podcast of Pooka, Saucy.
I'm your host, Blake Jones. I'm gathered here today with my bunnies. That was dumb.
That sounded like a funeral entry.
For Easter.
Yeah. I'm with co-creator Michael Whedon.
Hi.
I'm with my comedic muse, Zachary Kogel.
Greetings.
And editor and producer, Donnie.
Who fucking farted?
Not me.
Vagina!
Isn't that a queef?
All right.
Oh my. We're already starting the day off.
Before we started, just one piece of news that just broke, and I'm like, I'll slip that in as a little tidbit. The movie coming out this summer, Pan. Yeah, that's right. There was a Peter Pan movie coming out this summer. We got that one trailer last year, and everyone kind of forgot about it. I knew this was going to happen. I totally called it. It got pushed back. It was going to come out in late July. Now it comes out early October.
It just doesn't want to grow up.
So...
Is that the one with Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman, yeah. So
Huge
I think it
Jackman.
actually looks good. I know Michael thought it looked cool.
Yeah,
But-
there was a big, huge online petition because
Tiger Lily.
Rooney Mara was cast as Tiger Lily. People made this big online petition for them to cast a Native American actress.
I'm sorry, Native Americans in general are kind of hard to come by these days.
I think the petition got to like like 700,000 or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that like the bitch for no reason.
It's like what I told Michael and Donnie. When they cast Frank Caliendo as Martin Luther King Jr., I'll be willing to hear you out. But no, I think it looks good. But it got pushed back. I totally called it because we got that one trailer in December and just never heard about it again. So yeah, but this October is looking to be a pretty crowded month. So yeah, October. I like October.
I think though if they got someone that was like Hispanic and just looked slightly like Native American, people wouldn't complain.
Probably.
They probably wouldn't even know that they were Hispanic.
Well, if you look at like Taylor Lautner and like all the like Native American boys, and that are the werewolves in the Twilight Saga, most of them are Native American.
They're all shirtless.
Yeah.
They're all like Hispanic or from Asian descent.
Is Taylor Lautner actually Native American though?
I think he has like a little bit, but I know he isn't like Native. I think he's mainly like Asian or Hispanic.
Well, pretty much anybody anymore in this country has a little bit somewhere.
Then they can't complain. Anyway, so let's just go on. That was one. Oh, also, they announced how the Star Wars spin-offs were going to be presented. They're being called anthology films. So when I saw the logo for The Force Awakens and how it just said Star Wars The Force Awakens, I'm like, okay, well, it should say Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens. If they want to do this thing where they have a Star Wars movie every year, they do episode spin-off, they're going to have to present it in a certain way on the posters and in the commercials where people don't think they're going to see a spin-off, but they're seeing an episode or vice versa.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he doesn't want to call it Episode 7 because maybe he doesn't like the original trilogy.
You mean the prequel trilogy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then someone
because
also...
they weren't called 4, 5, and 6 until the prequels came out.
And that is true. And they're also saying...
A New Hope wasn't even called A New Hope.
It was just called Star Wars.
It's just
Star Wars.
Blue Harvest.
And then someone also pointed out, well, if you think about it, why would Disney want to make something called a 7 and advertise 6 other movies that they don't even own yet?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to say Star Wars, Anthology, Rogue One, and so on. So I guess when we actually go see The Force Awakens in the opening crawl, it will indeed say Episode 7.
So people should have
Awakens.
people should have the common sense to know when they go see
Yeah.
go see Rogue One. Hey, the new characters that were introduced in The Force Awakens aren't in this.
Right. But yeah, we actually we can talk about Rogue One when we talk about The Force Awakens. Some news about that broke, but let's move on to the second trailer came out for The Fantastic Four, the film by Josh Trank, who directed Chronicle, 20th Century Fox's big reboot from the screenwriter and producer of X-Men Days of Future Past. I'll go first. I liked it. I think it looks really cool. I will say, though, it didn't make me get more excited for this movie than I already was. Granted, I was already pretty positive about this movie, but like I did with Age of Ultron trailer 3, or especially this new trailer for Star Wars, my excitement's already there, and I don't really see it peaking anymore. But I think it looks cool. It shows more story, whereas the teaser mainly focused on tone. We get a few shots of Doctor Doom, but yeah, I'll totally be there. You're excited for this one, Michael. Why don't you go next?
Yeah, I thought this trailer was really cool. It showed the first one was very much a teaser, and I thought it was a really, really good teaser. This one shows more of the characters interacting, them like throwing some dialogue in between each other. We actually get to see the Thing.
He looks awesome.
You get to see like we haven't heard him talk as the Thing, but we get to see him like move around, and they show like a shot of him punching something, and then like airdropping him from like a stealth bomber.
Yeah.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
And that's another thing I'm interested to see. I feel like Jamie Bell's Ben Grimm's going to be a little different. Like, he's not going to be like how Michael Chiklis was, like, kind of from the comic, like...
I'm going for a new
track record.
Like, the big, Lower East Side Brooklyn guy. Like, I feel like they're playing up the baseball thing a lot. Like, all the clips that show him, he's playing baseball, and then he, like, hits something with a baseball bat and breaks a sign. Like, I feel like they're getting him at, like, he's, like, the friendly jock friend of Reed Richardson's. He's the nerd, and he's the jock or something.
Which, let's be honest, if you knew Ben Grimm in real life, he seems like a dude that would love baseball.
He probably likes any sport.
Yeah.
But, it's just like Ben Grimm, you know, he's always a physical guy. But, it'll be interesting. From when Jamie Bell talks in it, he didn't really have a Brooklyn accent. So I doubt we'll hear the Thing have a voice like that.
What is Jamie Bell British?
Mm-hmm.
He is? Okay.
And we get to see Toby Kebbell, who's the guy who's going to turn into Doctor Doom. We see his alter ego exchange dialogue with him. I forget what they changed his last name to. It's Victor Domashev. Like, he's no longer Victor Von Doom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Well, my thing is...
Victor Von Doom does sound a little cartoonish.
It's a dumb name.
Not to mention, it's a little obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Who's the bad guy? Could it be the guy whose last name is literally Baron Von Bad Guy?
Well, that's the thing. Like, even in the Ultimate Comics, which this is based on, they changed Doctor Doom's name. It's not that, and his name's actually Victor Van Dam.
That's awesome.
Because he's damn delicious.
But I guess they thought that was too goofy too, so now he's Victor Domashev.
Wait, you're trying to tell me that the bad guys in Transformers are called Decepticons?
Huh.
Yeah.
I think you're making this up.
Yeah,
I think that's a little deceptive.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They made up that name when they turned bad and betrayed the Autobots.
Yeah.
They weren't born with that name. But, we get a little show off with the powers and stuff, but no, I would say it brought my excitement up a little bit more, but it didn't blow up. Like, I still am excited. Like, this is my top... In, like, the movies I'm excited for this year, this is number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, like, number 2 is Avengers and 1 Star Wars. I feel like this movie's really going to be the underdog. Like, so many other people are hyped for other movies, and I think this movie's going to be better than a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, this late July, early August was a real game of chicken. You had Mission Impossible, you had Ant-Man, and then you have Fantastic Four. So that's obviously why Peter Pan had to move.
Yeah.
I really like they're playing up the drama. Like, it looks very serious.
Who would win in the fight, Peter Pan or Dr. Manhattan?
Toggle.
Like from the other preview of Fantastic Four, like you know, most of you guys said, it didn't really show too much. Now that I got a good idea of like what the powers are going to look like when they're used, what the machine looks like, which by the way, I can't shake the feeling that the center of that machine is just the main character trying to play Caravan, the drum solo from the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But, it gets my thumb. Yeah, that's about it. I like it. I like what it looks like. I like what it's going for. It's not the old Fantastic Four. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
This isn't your dad's Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I feel like I could take this one just a little bit more
like
serious.
Your granddad. It's like, that's been like Fantastic Four's been out since like the 40s or 50s.
But yeah, yeah.
Donnie.
I'm with you. This trailer didn't really do anything more for me than what I already felt about this movie. I'm definitely more excited for this movie than what I thought I was going to be when I first heard about it. And this trailer does look really cool. I'm glad that they gave us a shot of Doctor Doom, even if it is just really, really quick. But this trailer did make me... It made me think of one question. Is Fox still going to try to have this movie like shared the same universe as the X-Men movies like they originally announced? If they do, I don't know what the point would be, seeing as how the X-Men movies are about to come to a close with X-Men Apocalypse. And it's also the X-Men movies, the first one came out in what, 2000?
2000.
Yeah, 2000. So it's like a 15-year head start, so it'd be the definition of shoehorn to introduce this into it. So
yeah,
I don't know if they're still going to do that or how they're going to do that or what even the point of doing that would be, but I'll definitely see this movie.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, there you have it. We're all going to go see it.
Big surprise. Who knew?
Next up,
It's 4 thumbs.
is the second trailer to Jurassic World. What? As I've said before online, you know, I never really grew up being that big a fan of Jurassic Park. I thought it was cool. It creeped me out as a kid. It was scary. Gives you goosebumps. Michael and I kind of had this joke a few years ago where, you know, when you were a kid and you had those action figures, you saw these badass commandos with all these huge guns, rocket launchers and stuff. And then you watch the movie and you look at your toys, you're like, where are these guys? Like, shoot them up. But you know, they have to tell a story. You know, you can't have to put substance over style. But with the first trailer, it was good. I was like, I'm going to go see it. Chris Pratt looks cool. I like how he trains the Raptors to work with him. This trailer, more so than the Fantastic Four trailer, actually got me more excited for the movie, even more. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like a cool action movie. Finally, we see, you know, the security staff shooting some shit up, blowing shit up, trying to outsmart whatever this thing is. It really just seems like a bigger T-Rex with longer arms, which, goddamn, that sounds horrifying. So
now I am unstoppable.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks fun. Bryce Dallas Howard, she gets bad luck. She tries to hop aboard all these franchises, and it's when they fail. She joined Spider-Man 3, and it isn't liked. And then she was in Terminator Salvation, and then it got rebooted. So hopefully she doesn't...
She was in The Village, and people think that's when M. Night Shyamalan went downhill.
Yeah, so Bryce Dallas Howard seems to be like this horrible person of bad luck. But, you know...
She's the angel of death for movies.
I like
What? What'd you say?
I said, she's the angel of death for movies.
I like her, though. I think she's a good actress. She just kind of has bad luck.
I mean, she seemed like she was kind of doing a better job as John Connor's wife than Claire Danes did, and I love Claire Danes. But yeah, back to Jurassic World. Totally gonna go see it. Looks like a fun time, a fun summer movie. Yeah, Donnie, you're the big Jurassic Park fan. You go next.
I think this trailer is a lot better than the first trailer for Jurassic World, and the first trailer was pretty decent in and of itself.
And keep in mind the visual effects are more complete.
Yeah. The one part of the new trailer that really kind of gave me chills and made me like, oh my god, this movie's going to be awesome, was when the bigger T-Rex with the long arms actually breaks loose. And they get out and they see all the brontosauruses are just clawed up and dead and slaughtered. They're like, she's killing for sport. Motherfucker's killing just because it can.
Maximus Elbous.
Yeah. It's not like in the previous movies where it was just
a Pookie.
It's not like the previous movies where it was just something out of, like, you know, a monster out of place, or, you know, an animal that shouldn't have been resurrected, just doing its own thing. This thing's killing just because it can.
Yeah, because it can.
And it realizes it can.
Yeah, so it's doing whatever the hell it wants.
Pretty soon it's going to have a podcast.
Hey, the Disney Channel did it with a dog, so why not?
Yeah, what the fuck?
The dog had a podcast.
There was a Disney Channel original series a couple years ago, or it's still going on.
Not a couple years ago. It's going on now.
Like where a dog has a dog with a blog.
That's the name of the show.
Is it a cartoon?
No.
They put peanut butter on the roof of his mouth, and they're like, "Oh, okay. Today in my life, I shit in the yard."
Please kill me. And last episode, when we were talking about the new Terminator movie, I mentioned how a lot of cult classic franchises that are coming out with sequels and reboots like years and years later all kind of suffer this same curse where it looks like they're overstaying their welcome and they're making an encore after the audience left. This movie feels like it's a genuine attempt to preserve the legacy of the previous movies. And to preserve, the mindset of how everyone who loves those movies feel about them. So I'm excited for it. I'm counting down the days.
Kugel.
I'm with Blake on the beginning half of what he said, where it's like I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah,
I had some of the toys. No, I never watched the first one until like when I was like a few years ago, actually, like one or 2 years ago. Yeah. But I can say this: it looked really good. But as the trailer started to wrap up, I started to see that one scenario taking place where, that one comic, like, I don't know. Well, not that.
I
You're close.
That one.
That comic cliche where someone's trying to, like, rally people and they're like, and we're going to do this. And everyone's like, yeah. And we're going to do this too. Yeah. And free this. Silence. That's where you lost me. That trailer did that to me because it was like, she has long arms. Oh, shit. Oh, God, she's killing for sport. Oh, shit. She's communicating with the dinosaurs and she's telling them to attack the humans. Yeah, so when does Caesar come in with the apes? So, I mean, I hope it doesn't try to, like, at the end, try to take on the same feeling as, like, the Planet of the Apes series does. I know it won't exactly, but that's the kind of feel I got from it. I really hope it tries to stay original yet true to its
form.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it's bad. I just hope it doesn't.
I'm just saying I'm not going to fucking see it.
Oh, I'll see it. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of do want to see Burt Macklin riding a freaking motorcycle with raptors running beside him. But yeah, I mean, I'll see it. I just hope it doesn't, do that thing where that one last. I'll give it my nail.
Ooh, kinky.
And he hasn't cut it yet, so it's kind of long.
Oh, so you're going to get shit caught up in it. Okay, Michael.
Just don't eat any nachos afterwards.
Talk about a corn chip. Poop jokes.
I thought this trailer was pretty cool. The whole thing with the hybrid dinosaur... I feel like it can go either way. I think it's cool that they're trying, I guess, up the ante and whatever. The thing I actually like that people complain about is the train raptors. I actually think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, they say in the first movie that the raptors are smarter than apes.
Yeah.
And if we can train apes, then we should be able to train something that's smarter than an ape. So, I guess you could say
zoology?
Zoology or whatever, that would make sense. So I can totally buy that Chris Pratt's a raptor trainer. I about said Chris Pratt as a raptor trainer. But, the genetically... I thought it was funny what Chris Pratt said, because that was what I was thinking. In the trailer, she's like, we made a hybrid dinosaur to wow the audience. And he's like, what's a dinosaur? He's like, they're dinosaurs. That's already wow. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of the point, which makes, like, the people that run the park look like complete fucking idiots.
Well, it continues the theme of science. Sometimes science can go too far. Not so much science.
Well, that's the thing. It's like that's my thing. Is like you fucking brought back dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's like, what more else do you want? And
I want to I'm sorry, Mike. At the shareholders, meeting for Jurassic Park, I want to know how they got a table full of businessmen to agree. A T-Rex with longer arms.
What could go wrong?
Well, my thing, it's really... The coolest thing about this movie, I think, is the concept. Because when you watch the first one, the park isn't even open.
Yeah.
The whole point of them being there is that
give it the seal of approval.
John Hammond, the character that built the place and owned it,
Santa.
Yeah. Miracle on 34th Street, Santa. But he brings in Dr. Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm and all of them to see if it's okay, like just to like test it out, because like Sam Neill's an archaeologist. The woman, I forget her name, she studies like prehistoric plants, and Ian Malcolm's a chaos theorist, and he has like the attorney and all that there. They're seeing if it's okay. And then there was the one dude, like the clever girl guy. He was like a big game hunter or something like that, like an animal expert. He was basically the closest thing to one of the action figures, because he was the dude that always carried around a shotgun.
Yeah.
And going back to what Blake says, I went through phases, because when I was really little, I loved Jurassic Park. Like, I watched it on repeat like 1,000 times when it came out. I watched the sequels, and then I went through this phase where I was like, I wish they had more action. But now that I'm older and I kind of appreciate story over just action scenes, I still love Jurassic Park, and I have a lot of respect. I want to read the books. A lot of people don't realize that there's only 2 books, so 3 in Jurassic World are actually original ideas. Nothing wrong with that or anything. I'm one of those people that actually like 3. But, yeah, I really hope this movie does well. I think Chris Pratt looks like he's probably going to be the best part of it.
He's a likable guy. He can carry a role.
I also think like he's trying to do more like a serious thing in this. Like there's jokes here and there, but it doesn't seem like he's going to act like Star-Lord the whole movie.
Right. I was worried about that at one time.
Because like Jurassic Park isn't funny.
No.
It's a very, very serious story.
And especially of all the movies, this one should be even more serious, because you have families here now that you have to save.
There's all
the
like,
shot of like
people.
the pterodactyls carrying people off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no way I would ever fucking go to Jurassic Park, or at least take my kids there.
Yeah,
It's the closest thing we could ever have to Pokemon Gone Wild.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you think those parents like drop them off there? Like the kids, like it shows those 2 boys like they fly there by themselves. It's like fuck that.
Here, kids,
Mother of the year, like get Dr. Drew in here.
Yeah.
Here, kids, get in a hamster bubble and run across a whole bunch of friggin' dinosaurs.
They could like look like they could just like smush it.
And if this is indeed in the same world, obviously, as Jurassic Park 1 through 3, hey, I'm gonna let you go by yourself over to this place that's, been canceled 3 different times.
How old are you again? 7? You're pretty much a man now. Here's $20. Good luck.
Get some hair on your nugs.
Yeah.
But wow, what a dino shit show.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So, the trailer also dropped for Star Wars The Force Awakens episode. Shh.
You gonna wake the dead.
Yeah. I think the dead have been woken after seeing this trailer.
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
It's awoken.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know how to start. Donnie, you're a Star Wars fan. I'm going to let you go first.
Fucking love Star Wars. Said it before, say it again. Star Wars.
2016.
Yes.
2015, actually.
Star Wars is, in fact, my jam, in case you didn't know.
It's also his bread and butter.
Yep. The first trailer that came out for The Force Awakens, when I first saw it, I was like, man, that was cool. Then after about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I was like, it didn't show nearly enough. Like, that, especially now, in retrospect, after seeing the new trailer, the first trailer kind of blew. But this trailer, oh my god. The first shot of the desert with the Star Destroyer just sitting in the sand. I fucking love that scene.
And then in the foreground, there's a X-Wing.
Yeah. I love the shot of the stormtroopers lining up with the giant Imperial banner in the background. This movie is just simply going to be awesome. It's going to be the Star Wars movie that everyone wants and the Star Wars movie that everybody deserves.
Will it be the one they need?
Everybody needs Star Wars, Blake.
Okay.
This movie's just simply going to be awesome. The shot at the end with Han Solo and Chewbacca, awesome. The shot of the Millennium Falcon running away from the Imperial
TIE Fighter?
Yeah, TIE Fighter and the turbine of the Star Destroyer, awesome. Just the Sith Lord in this movie looks freaking awesome. This movie is going to be movie of the year. Don't care what anybody says.
More so than Fast and Furious?
Yes.
Okay. Kogel. All right, that's it for tonight. I'm glad you're all able to join us.
That's the face of a man who hasn't had his Wheaties yet.
Yeah. Okay. I think we covered this in like the last one where we talked about like Rogue One and whatnot.
Rogue Candy.
Yeah, Rogue Handy. When I was growing up, I was more of predominantly a Star Trek fan than I was a Star Wars fan.
Why?
Go again.
And the only reason why, and I could never really explain it when I was
Whatever
little.
it is, it's a bad reason.
The only reason why nowadays I think about it is because when I was younger and I saw the Star Trek aspect first, I saw they had like, I grew up with the idea of, they had like the structure. There was military, but there was also political stuff. They didn't focus too much on the political stuff, but they did focus on like the not military aspect, but they had like the government aspect, and everyone was their own separate power. And then when you get to Star Wars, they had that, but whenever like the prequels tried to touch on it, they screwed it up. And everyone hates the idea that, there's a political power struggle. If she signs the treaty, it's not going to do anything. Here's some pizza rolls. But I like how this one looks like it won't just focus on one aspect of the Star Wars universe. It'll try to focus on the vast majority of what makes it good.
Which I've always
Which
loved about
I really
Star
hope
Wars.
that happens. Star Wars is one of those franchises where I look at it and I go, I want to like you. I really want to like you. But sometimes you just don't focus on the right things I want to like about you. And hopefully this one will do it.
What I've always loved about Star Wars is the universe that it exists in.
The more vast universe doesn't always get covered.
The character. It's a very character-driven mythology.
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes I'll play some of the games like Knights of the Old Republic, the Old Republic 2, even that really awful one kinda that was called Star Wars Starfighter. Like, I have some of the older games like that too, and I play through them and I'm like, where's some of this like vast story in the movies?
Well, that's why it's called an expanded universe.
Yeah. So,
and that's one thing a lot of people don't realize is the story of the Skywalker family is just a very small portion of the Star Wars mythology. I do like that, just kind of looking at the new trailer, it looks like they're not exactly going by the expanded universe, but they're kind of using it as an outline, which I'm okay with. I've always liked the expanded universe. I always thought the expanded universe had some amazing stories, some that were even better than the movies. So, I mean, whether they take anything from it or not, I'm okay with it as long as the movie ends up being good. But if they use it as an outline, I think that's even better.
But yeah, I mean, I watched it, and it was one of those things where, as much as I always say, I think I've said this once or twice before on this podcast, that I always lose all my good shit to Star Wars. This is why I can't have nice things. I hope this is like my severance package. Like, I'm sorry this happened. I'm sorry this happened. Here's a good movie that has what you wanted the whole time. And I'm going to be like, thank you, JJ. You are my jet plane. But, yeah, by the way, real quick though, the guy with the cloak, he was in like gunmetal gray armor. Is that a 501st?
Don't know.
I want it to be.
That
armor
Probably not, because with the Empire being gone and like 30 years later.
Well, I mean, they might not be Vader's fist. That's why I said, was that 501st?
Well, it's possible.
Well, that's what the 501st was.
Yeah. I mean, like if Vader's gone, they'd have to drop Vader's fist, or else they'd be sued for false advertising.
No, because I think by the
I think in the expanded universe,
by the time of A New Hope, most of the 501st was dead anyway.
No, they still existed. It's just like the 501st was actually the last portion of Stormtroopers that was all Jango Fett clones.
Yeah, and it makes sense why they were still Jango Fett clones. They didn't have to kill their
by
master.
This time, most of them would be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they did mention they have short
And they don't.
spans.
And as far as the movies go, they never say
Mention the 5.
My thing is like you can argue whatever you want, like when it comes to the books and the video games. But if you think about it, like when it comes to George Lucas and J.J. Abrams and like Irving Kershner and all the people that made the movies, they could just say Star Wars started off as a movie, and they could just say there are only the movies. And they can get away with that. Like, they're like, anything outside of the movies isn't the movies, and it's not Star Wars. But that's the thing.
Can't argue that,
like,
seeing as how...
Well, that's the thing. It's like Star Wars.
TV
Star Wars isn't...
being made by the company that owns it. So...
Yeah. My thing is like, with Star Wars, you can pick what you want to follow. Like, there are people that ignore the prequels. They're like, there's only the original trilogy for me, and there's people that love the expanded universe. There's people that aren't big into reading and stuff or big into playing video games. And they're like, well, I just like to follow what's in the movies. Yeah. It's like, I don't really care about these extra people that somebody made up that was just paid by LucasArts or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I mean, yeah, I can understand why people will say that, but I started, like, revisiting some of the old games, like the first Knights of the Old Republic. I played through that. I finally figured out what Kolto is. Like, it's been this long, like when they were, you know, those tanks that people float in and they're unconscious, they got the breather mask on. I figured what that shit was. It's a special chemical that rises up from in a completely aquatic world. But if you never would have played the game, or read any of the books, you never would have understood what the hell they're floating in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very lore-rich. And I always like lore-rich stuff, and I just hope that they do.
Well, my thing is you could also think the people in Mos Eisley. You got to think through a filmmaker's perspective. It's like, why are all these people in the bar? George Lucas's explanation. He's like, well, I just wanted to fill it up with people to make it look like people go to a bar. So they just made random costumes for a bunch of different people. They're just extras. They didn't give them names. But as time went on, people were like, oh, hey, who was that? And the only people that ask that are hardcore fans. So people who can write the books and not make a movie can literally make up a whole backstory. Like, there's books upon books about just one character you see in one frame of the movie. And he has all his backstory. And that's kind of a good or bad thing, because you could say how rich the Star Wars universe is, but then some people are like, well, that's just a book someone wrote. It's not, because Star Wars isn't based on books. It's not like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or anything like that, where in the movie you could see someone real quick and then just be like, oh, well, he has such a bigger part in the books. It's like, but that's because it started off as a book. It's like Star Wars starts off as a movie. At first, he was just a no-name.
The biggest reason I have so much support, I give so much support to the expanded universe, is because everything at the time, at least it used to be, I don't know, I doubt they'll do it this way now that Disney owns it, everything in the expanded universe had to be examined and approved by Lucas.
Yeah.
Like, if it didn't get his seal of approval, it didn't get released.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Michael, what do you think of the Force Awakens trailer? Back to...
Well, it's like, what else could I say? It's like, oh, no, it was all right. No, it was amazing. It's one of those things, and I'm going to go out on a thing. Well, I'm not even going out on a limb here, because this isn't really like me going against the green. Movie-wise, Star Wars is arguably the greatest story ever told.
Yep.
And it is, and it's like, and I'll argue until I'm blue in the face. Star Wars changed the face of cinema forever. It always has, it did then, and it always will.
Vader 2016.
Well, I think
the greatest thing about Star Wars is that Star Wars is, capital I-S, everything. It is everything anybody's liked in any kind of scope of a story. It has European fairy tales. You have the young boy aspiring to the hero that finds the magic weapon. You have the wizard. You have American Western culture with Han Solo based as the outlaw and his partner using guns and stuff. That's the main thing it incorporates that no one ever does, like the sword and sorcery with guns. And it's like, it's a fantasy. It's a sci-fi, it's a romance, it's a drama, it's a war story, it has horror elements, it has comedy.
It has political.
It has politics. It's like it's like it has corruption, it has drama, it has the feeling of loss and love.
Shot first.
Star Wars can literally do anything. And J.J. Abrams, I think, is one of the best newer directors out here at the time. He grew up being a Star Wars and a Spielberg fan. You can see it in his work. And as much as I love the new Star Trek movies he did, he's even said that he was not a Star Trek fan growing up. And I have nothing against Star Trek. I like Star Trek. I think Star Trek's awesome. I didn't follow it as a kid. I like it now once I've gotten into it. But it's one of those things where when you're offered the chance to do your childhood dream,
you don't say no.
You're not
clear your schedule.
You're not going to say no. That's good. Directing a Star Wars movie is kind of it's not even a once in a lifetime chance. It's like something that nobody does.
Yeah.
That nobody does. And I think even though this is like the only movie that George Lucas hasn't written.
Right. And he's only the third person to direct a Star Wars movie that isn't George Lucas.
But George Lucas wrote all of them.
Yeah.
This is the first one that he did not write.
Isn't George Lucas kind of like a helping hand in this one, though?
I think he's just like an executive
Yeah, he
producer.
keeps suggesting they use CG and then they shoot him down.
Because I know Disney said they'll keep him around, like, to kind of oversee everything, help out, give input. Maybe he's just that guy who just hangs around the office and brings donuts and nobody just
he gets to sit in that comfortable chair.
Well, my thing is like, I like the prequels, unlike most people. I don't love them. I like them. 2
is the only bad movie.
You see, that's the funny thing. I like 2 if you
bad.
cut out all the really shitty, forced romance scenes.
Well, I like the idea of the Clone Wars. Every scene that doesn't have Anakin with Padme,
yeah, those are
good.
Shit.
Well, my thing is like,
other than the Coliseum fight was pretty cool.
George Lucas can't really write like strong romances. Like the Han and Princess Leia romance was very subtle and it didn't run the whole story.
Feel forced.
So it was okay. And George Lucas is very good at being a conceptual artist.
Yeah.
He's not that great with dialogue, and he's not that particular. He's really good with being like the overseer of special effects and kind of being like writing the original work, and then he needs someone to come in for the screenplay and like fix up the dialogue.
He's James Cameron. James Cameron makes some bad dialogue.
Yeah, but I would say in a lot of ways, George Lucas is better than James Cameron because James Cameron went like really downhill.
Does what James Cameron does for James Cameron.
Like Avatar, I think even the Star Wars prequels are way better than Avatar.
Yeah,
they're more remembered.
Yeah, and
it's back. It's here.
But as far as The Force Awakens goes, I love it. Like almost every frame you see gives you chills. Just seeing the army of stormtroopers line up in front of that new flag, whatever it is. Just seeing them run through the desert, them flying through the Star Destroyer, the new guy. I don't even know he's a Sith. He might be just a Dark Jedi because he's not called Darth something. His name is Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So he might just be.
And if you notice,
I just love that shot where like it looks like he force grabs the camera. And you see like Darth Vader's like destroyed helmet.
Actually, if you look, is this the guy who's supposed to have like the Claymore-like lightsaber?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you notice, the reason I like that guy, his mask is not the same, but the mask he's wearing is reminiscent of Darth Revan. Yeah, that shit is the shit. Yeah.
And my thing is like, what else is there to say? It's like
that we haven't said before.
It's like not to pull it, but like. It's fucking Star Wars. Yeah. And that's the thing. People can bash the prequels all they want. They still went and saw it at least more than once in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. People back in the 70s would go see movies once. And they did a research, and I saw it was like the average person, what year was it? 1976 or 77? The original Star Wars.
77.
In 1977, the average person saw Star Wars in theaters at least 7 times. Now, how often do people go to the movie theaters and see a movie 7 times in a row?
Yeah.
Most I've ever seen a movie is twice.
Most I've seen
and
is
that's the
7.
thing. And look at marketing. Like Star Wars has a huge marketing campaign. Like look at how long it took from Return of the Jedi to the Phantom Menace. How many years was that?
16.
16 years, and they were still making toys, and they still sold well. And like from 2005 to 2015, not even talking about the cartoons, they're still making toys for the original trilogy. Like I'm not even talking about the show. Like they make toys for the original stuff. They make clothes, and people buy them. There's never been a time like, oh well, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh well, Star Wars has gotten really stale. It's like, who the fuck ever said that?
Yeah.
It's like Star Wars is Star Wars.
I mean, how much money did Disney pay for it?
$4 billion.
Yeah, I don't even think we paid that much when we bought Alaska.
I love this trailer. It's like what Michael said. Every shot gives you chills. Every shot is worth examining.
And Blake's a naysayer.
Yeah.
Blake's a
because Blake thinks Star Wars is dated.
I think the original trilogy aged slightly, and that's not a rip on Star Wars.
No.
I think Star Wars is a timeless story. I don't think the film itself is ageless, and that's not a thing against Star Wars. I think everything from the 70s aged. I say that about everything from that time, and a lot of stuff from the 80s even aged a little bit, and stuff from the 90s even aged in a weird way.
No, we're never growing up.
Yeah, okay.
But my thing is that it's not boring.
Yeah.
There is no part in any of them that drag out and is boring and quiet.
And to just look on the opposite side of the spectrum here, I'm a hardcore Star Trek fan, like I have said before. I still think the original series looks super ultra dated, as opposed to most hardcore Star Trek fans are like, no, the original series is the best. I actually like them all, even though the original
like the Next Generation better. That's what I
grew up with the Next Generation.
The mythology of Star Wars, the morals, the messages are all timeless. This is my number 1 movie of the year that I'm excited for. Number 2 is The Avengers. The Avengers is the movie of our time. Star Wars is the movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that...
Red Rock. Yeah.
Well, the only like Star Wars, you could say Star Wars generation, is the people who originally saw it. Because not many people could say that, but that's the thing. Star Wars is for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things.
Star Wars for all seasons.
Star Wars has gotten to a point where it is literally like the story that everybody tells their children before they go to bed. Like, it's kind of like it's a fairy tale without being written down because it's a movie. Like, Star Wars has just become that big.
Yeah.
And it's like it's in everybody's minds and hearts for decades.
And I think J.J. Abrams is a magnificent storyteller, and I think it'll be interesting to see him do Star Wars because it's like what Michael said. He was not a Star Trek fan growing up. He was a Star Wars fan. But I think in a way that was his advantage with Star Trek was he was an outsider looking in being like, what does this franchise need to be relevant again, to be modern, to bring in a wider mainstream audience? Since he grew up with Star Wars, he is playing in a world that he loved.
Yeah.
And I want to see what he does with that. And it looks pretty amazing what he's doing right now. I think that I want to know. I mean, we know that the guy.
My thing is, it's also like he's living his dream because I don't care who you are. Especially if you were a little boy, there's plenty of girls that like Star Wars too. I'm not stereotyping boys, but every little boy had a toy lightsaber.
If you were a little boy.
Especially if you grew up in America or like a populated place, you had a lightsaber.
If you were a little boy, especially in the 90s, there were 3 things you wanted to be when you grew up. A Jedi, a Power Ranger, or Goku.
Or a superhero.
And that's the thing. Even like beyond our generation with like Power Rangers and Dragon Ball Z, kids in the 70s, kids in the 80s, kids in the 90s, kids in the early 2000s, 2010, they all have lightsabers.
Yeah.
It's like... It's that timeless thing where kids, you will see kids go outside or in their house hitting each other with lightsabers, or wearing Darth Vader or Boba Fett masks.
Remember when the Phantom Menace came out? If you had like the double-bladed lightsaber toy, you were like the coolest shit ever.
They even had like the big pack where it came with a Darth Maul mask and like a black hood.
Yeah.
Like, and I had a Darth Maul like double blade lightsaber that was small and it had candy inside of it, and then I had like a mini blue lightsaber.
I had the Darth Maul double bladed. I also had Luke's lightsaber from Return of the Jedi.
The green one.
Yeah, the blade snapped, but I still have the hilt, so it's a good like.
See, I have the Anakin Skywalker one where you hit the button, it turns from blue to red.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Every little kid went outside, had a lightsaber, and pretended their own adventures in Star Wars. And that's what J. Abrams got to do. Someone who actually... Because I'm not saying any person that likes Star Wars can make a good Star Wars story. Not everybody's a good writer. But someone who has experience as being a good writer and a good director gets the chance to basically turn like his fun time as a kid into reality.
Yeah. You can bet your ass...
It's like the ultimate dream.
You can bet your ass that if Warner Brothers called me tomorrow and said, do you want to direct a Superman movie? I would get my ass out to California as fast as possible. But I think the Sith Lord looks cool if he is a Sith Lord. I mean, he has a red lightsaber and he's the bad guy. He's a Sith. But,
yeah.
But
Dark Jedi. I think he's a Dark Jedi because he's not called Darth. I think he's like probably like a self-trained. Like,
unless they're like, since the Empire is kind of being reinvented, he could be reinventing the Sith Order and just.
I want to know who this Chrome Trooper is with a cape. I want to know who that is.
My thing is, I have kind of two theories. My thing is either he's going to be like a secondary villain, kind of like a new Boba Fett because he had like a cape, or
the second in
command. Or maybe that is Kylo Ren. Like maybe he starts off as like an advanced stormtrooper and then learns the ways of the Sith.
Yeah.
And he trades in that armor for like the more Sith look. We don't know. They're probably just two separate characters. Probably just two different villains.
But. Yeah. And it's like what you said. There isn't much more.
And that's the other thing is that we don't know what the hell the plot is.
Yeah.
They don't have to say anything. They just have to put, hey, this is Star Wars, and then billions of people are going to go see it.
I think...
And that's the greatest marketing ever because it doesn't even have to do anything. That's its legacy.
It is the Apple of movie franchises.
I would say even more than that.
You lost me.
Well, hold on. Let me... But I think that should set a new standard. Because this isn't called trailer or trailer 2. This is called teaser 2. And I think this should... Because this came out... It doesn't show the plot, doesn't really show the story. We don't even really know what the fuck is going on. We know there's a villain in it, and that's probably a good guy. That's probably a bad guy.
Yeah.
That guy's getting shot, and that's blown up.
Oh my god, robots.
But we don't know anything about the plot or story. And I think, and look how much of a buzz it created. Look how much of a hype. It is the legacy of Star Wars, but I think this should set a new standard for trailers.
How many movies?
Give away the whole goddamn thing. Because
Godzilla!
Well, see, the
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Star Wars has its legacy, but some movies you can't leave it too much of a mystery because then if it's just something that's new, like brand new,
there's only one movie that defies that. Inception. I watched every trailer and I did not know a damn thing about that movie, and it frustrated the shit out of me.
Some movies that are new and you don't show anything, they don't know what it's about, so they're not interested. But Star Wars has the legacy, like where you literally don't have to say anything.
And that is a glaring problem with movie trailers today, is they show us the whole goddamn thing before we even sit down in the theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, as much as I like that movie, as much as I plan on defending it with you in the upcoming episode of Hails and Fails, the biggest offender of this problem was Sony's marketing strategy for The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Even Man of Steel. The biggest problem with Man of Steel was every wonderful, good piece of dialogue was in the trailers. Not so much as the plot or story itself, because we didn't know what General Zod,
but all the good
Codex,
parts.
all the good quotes, every great piece of dialogue was in the trailers. I'm worried, and right now, Marvel keeps showing clips of the Avengers on their YouTube channel, and we're up to like a handful of clips now. And they're like a minute, 2 minutes long. Stop fucking doing that.
This is why I never watch stuff like that. This is why
I don't do clips. I don't do clips.
Well, I try to avoid trailers half the time too.
Yeah, Brad spoiled the one clip for me. Like I told him I don't want to hear it. He's like, "Oh, that's not a spoiler." He just kept talking on and on.
So he did a Trevor.
Yeah,
but
yeah, he said what's in that Hulkbuster clip. I'm like, Brad, I don't want to hear it. He's like, "Oh, it's not a spoiler."
Well, don't pay it forward. But
but one thing though that I would like to say and say my piece just to get it off my chest. You're right.
God, here we go.
No. It's very short. I do actually not like when trailers give away too much. But however, I also don't like the idea of a trailer having to bank on its own reputation too much. But what I mean by that is, I like the idea that J.J. Abrams wants no one to know a damn thing about his movie. He's like, you want to know about it? Go see it. I like that.
J.J. Abrams and Christopher Nolan know how to make a trailer, not spoil the movie.
Well, I like that a lot.
Well, my thing is, it's not so much what Nolan and Abrams keep their movies secret, not because to just do it. They're like, oh, I want my movie to be a mystery. They do it because when they grew up and watched movies, you didn't know what was going on. There wasn't internet where you could like see set pics and leak scripts and stuff.
Yeah. I hate that.
Not even 9 times out of 10, like 10 times out of 10, you went into a movie, and if you didn't really, because you couldn't even really see the trailers a lot. You'd only see like trailers when you went to the movies.
Yeah.
And so you'd only see it once, so it wouldn't be fresh in your head.
Yeah.
So. And you might have saw it like a couple months ago, or some people literally didn't know it was in the movie theater until they walked by the theater and saw the poster.
And that was the norm up until not even 20 years ago.
And then they go into the movie.
The internet killed.
Surprise!
I mean, imagine going into a Star Wars for the first time and not knowing anything about it,
except the title.
And that's the thing. A show I really like, That 70s Show, they talk about that because that show takes place like when the movie came out. And they're like, oh yeah, I saw a poster or like a trailer for it a while ago. It looks okay. It kind of look. And Eric Foreman says, he's like, it could be alright. It kind of looks dumb. And when they go see it, they just shows their reaction in the theater. And Eric Foreman, because he was kind of a nerdy guy then, his eyes are just glued to the screen, not blinking. And the whole rest of the show, he's a huge Star Wars fan. Like he has the action figures and stuff like that. And like they just play on how they just want to keep on seeing it over and over again. And it's not just to be funny. That's what people did.
Yeah.
They freaked the fuck out.
There was one movie in recent memory that was original, and it wasn't by Abrams or Nolan. Not by Snyder. And coincidentally, this man, Rian Johnson, is directing Episode 8. And this is spoilers for the movie I'm about to talk about. September 2012, a movie called Looper comes out.
Yeah.
Where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's about a hitman with time travel. Going into the movie, all you knew about was that Bruce Willis gets sent back for Joseph Gordon-Levitt to basically kill himself, and he runs away. When you see the movie, once again, spoilers, last chance, there's this subplot, and it kind of becomes the main plot because it connects to it, about this child that grows up to become the world crime boss, and he has all these powers. And I'm sitting there in the theater and I'm like, this is amazing because the trailers, the previews, the commercials did not show any of this. I didn't know anything about. I knew Emily Blunt is the mom. I knew Emily Blunt was in it, and even in the trailers we're all being like, so what's Emily Blunt have to do with that? Is that his girlfriend or something? Like a quarter into the movie, you're like, there's still no Emily Blunt. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Then you see this plot about her son with this gift. And it's like, this is awesome. Sony came out and was like, I think we made a mistake by not showing that plot in the trailers. We should have got people more excited about it. And Bruce Willis spoke up and said, no, you did the right thing. They got this whole other plot, this whole other aspect, this whole angle, and they didn't know about it. And I'm like, for once in his goddamn life, Bruce Willis is right about something.
Yeah, when you blindside people with a plot they never knew coming, and it was supposed to be the main plot all along.
And that's a decent example, but Looper didn't blow people away that much. Like, I don't even think it did.
Not too much.
It did all right, but I don't even think it did that well.
Well, then again, what you got to remember is you're comparing
really
apples to
underrated.
oranges. We're comparing apples to oranges here. We're not comparing the success of Star Wars to the success of Looper.
Yeah, that's not
We're
what it's
comparing
about.
the idea that a movie with no credentials, nothing that could back itself up.
No
period,
resume.
No resume at all. Comes out of the blue, and people automatically just start buzzing about it immediately.
Yeah, everyone who saw it loved it a lot.
it wasn't a Nolan or Abrams film.
It did fall under the radar, but I was so amazed by this simple concept of a trailer not showing the entire plot. And I'm like, there was a time when this was a normal feeling. And I think J.J. Abrams and Christopher Nolan want us to return to that era.
Oh, I would love that.
And I hope that this teaser and this excitement sets a new standard for, if this is a property that's known enough, we don't have to show that much. Just make 2-3 teasers, show some different shots, a couple new lines of dialogue, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this looks wonderful. It's
because there was a movie, and I can tell you this right now, that tried to bank off of its fan base and its semi-quasi big legacy, and everyone didn't like it. And that was Prometheus. It was like, hey, it's an alien movie, and everyone's like, all right, it's an alien movie, and then they watch it, and they're like, what the fuck did I just watch?
And that was a shame, because even Ridley Scott returned to do that, and
that's the thing that bugged me about it. The whole movie was flawed all the way through, and the one thing that everyone couldn't stop talking about, and it pissed me off, was she could have just ran to the left, she could have just ran to the right. I'm like, how about you just look at the whole movie?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a cool movie. It's a beautiful looking movie. That was the movie I introduced Michael to Blu-ray with, and Michael texted me later that night and was like, I didn't know Blu-ray could look that good.
Yeah. It's still one of the few, though. There are a lot of movies on Blu-ray where I don't see much of a difference.
Yeah. It's one of the few. Prometheus and the Watchmen movie are the most beautiful movies on Blu-ray.
I need to get that.
I think
on Blu-ray.
I think they make if a movie has really good like special effects, it makes it really pop on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But if it's just like a normal comedy where people are just like hanging out talking on screen, you don't see the fucking difference.
I'm not gonna go get Clerks on Blu-ray.
I mean, you can see the difference between like Blu-ray and VHS, but Blu-ray and like the standard DVD, there's not too much of a difference.
No, but and that is the thing that you bring up. Like Prometheus, the trailers didn't show the entire plot. It was directed by the original director. Yes, first and foremost, you need to actually make a really good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, this. Some other Star Wars news is back to the Rogue One thing. Rogue Handy. They revealed what the plot to Rogue One is going to be. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a heist film about rebels trying to break into Imperial bases and steal the plans to the Death Star.
That is awesome.
What?
Yes.
That is fucking awesome.
Oh man, we're gonna see Bothans.
Yeah. It is rebels trying to steal the blueprints to the Death Star.
So
I wonder if they'll get it.
So technically, if you could just humor me on this is technically going to be a prequel?
It takes place...
Is this going to be like right before the beginning of episode 4? Or
will you let me goddamn talk?
It's before Princess Leia gets the plans.
It takes place between episode 3 and 4. It is much closer to 4 than it is 3. You know the line in episode A New Hope where it says many Bothans died to get us these plans?
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Is it that?
It's about those people, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually now am...
I like playing as the Bothan spy in Battlefront 2.
They said
he could like turn invisible.
And they said unless there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi cameo, there is not going to be Jedi in it. Right. It is about normal people who only have guns trying to bring new...
Bothans aren't people.
Or is it normal individuals?
They're their own race.
Is it going to be about non-magical individuals trying to bring hope to the galaxy again?
They're
people. They're not humans.
Without...
Well, yeah, they're aliens.
Yeah, without Jedi, without magical powers or what have you. And is being directed by the guy who directed the new Godzilla movie.
Okay. Don't get the same writer, and I think we'll have a good movie.
Well, Godzilla was a good-looking movie, but, a movie about Godzilla would have been nice.
My thing is, the problem with Godzilla, it wasn't the direction, it wasn't the look, it wasn't the style, it wasn't even the actors. I thought the actors tried their best. It was just
they focused on the wrong character.
Yeah.
I didn't give by the halfway point of that movie. I could not give even 2 shits about the
110,
the one guy.
115.
I don't even remember. His name.
I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. I think people bank on Bryan Cranston too much. And Blake will back me up on that. The Breaking Bad blow up has gotten out of hand.
See, that's the thing. Yeah. I didn't want to see more of him because of Breaking Bad. I've never seen a single episode of Breaking Bad. I like Bryan Cranston because he's Bryan Cranston. The fact that he could play, he was known for a small amount of time as this clueless, idiotic, if you will, father from Malcolm in the Middle. All of a sudden, he jumps to Breaking Bad, and he's all serious and angry. And you're like, dude, that's not the guy I remember. I like this. This is like Jim Carrey playing a really serious role. Might not be successful, but it still influenced you, the fact that he's not a funny guy all the time. He's angry. Yeah. He can be angry. Bryan Cranston can be angry. He can be loud. He can be more than just, the one role. And then granted, maybe, the loud and the angry are still connected by the Breaking Bad and the Godzilla, but he's not Walter White.
Yeah.
He is an individual character with a background and a story. They set it up right in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. And I'm like, that's it? And then they go to this, almost kind of lifeless, military character who I don't even care about at this point in the movie. They set up half the movie to be talking about the father, and then they kill him off and switch to a character that we don't even have time to feel for yet.
I was left a little cold by Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim, and I genuinely thought Godzilla was going to be better than Pacific Rim. I cared about the humans in Pacific Rim way more than I did Godzilla, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly. But without...
we're getting off topic. Godzilla's
very off topic.
But let's move on. The trailer for Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice was released.
Blake Squee now.
Michael, you go first.
Well, another thing, it's what's there to say about that? This is a long-awaited thing since the end of 2013. I'm a big DC fan. I'm a big Batman fan. I love Superman too. It's one of those. It's one of those things where you've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and then it finally comes out, and you're just kind of awestruck. In some ways, you don't know what to say. And I was always, from the get-go, when they announced Ben Affleck as Batman, I was always on board. I've always loved Ben Affleck. I think he got a bad rep because he was with Jennifer Lopez, and every actor does bad movies, but you got to think he's an Oscar-winning actor, writer, and director. I think he's a very talented guy. I think he's a very cool guy in real life.
I hung out with him. I had a beer.
Well, just even in interviews and stuff like that, and he looks the part, in costume and out. I know, the costume, is the most comic book accurate because it's the first time we've seen, the black and gray. It's the black and gray, tight suit. And specifically the Frank Miller design. But every single movie's kind of done, all black or with, body armor. But this one was just, the suit. And even out of the suit, he's Bruce Wayne. He's the tall, muscular, has the, chiseled chin, the dark hair, and it's just he looks like Bruce Wayne.
That vacant face he makes when he's looking at the suit, going, "I shouldn't do this, but I know I have to." He kind of, for a split second, he kind of looked like George Clooney a little bit. It was the hair that did it to me, but still, I was like.
But I love that they just talk about the controversy of Superman. He's just not a beacon of light because if someone in real life just showed up with the power of a god, I think most people would hate him. They'd be afraid of him.
Flip out.
Yeah.
Religious cultists and stuff, they'd probably think he's the Antichrist.
But then you're getting these people that follow him.
Yeah, there's soldiers that are following him. They have Superman S shields on their like a badge on their arm. And that's kind of, I think, playing back to The Dark Knight Returns where he's a government lackey. But I really don't think they're going to do that in this movie. I feel like they're going to do the approach where, Superman's working with the government and maybe, that's where the confusion and the versus comes from. Because it seems from what I'm getting at, is that Superman thinks Batman is probably basically a villain, a dark, very dark, mysterious person that's enemies with the government. And Batman probably thinks Superman is just a government lackey and someone who has too much power and could go out of control in a split second. And it's all a big misunderstanding. And I love the Batman armor, like that's from The Dark Knight Returns when Superman and Batman fight. Like I love the look of it. I love the glowing blue eyes because it does like the blank white eyes, kind of like from the comics. I love the synthesizer voice. I don't know if he's going to have that when he's just wearing the normal suit. But and then that's another trailer that doesn't show a lot because it doesn't have to. We don't see any like fighting. We see like a couple explosions from like the Batwing and the Batmobile going by, but that's about it. And Zack Snyder he's really good at making things look like a comic book movie, especially because his old director of photography's back. Like everything's very colorful and almost, I want to say, I don't even want to say like bleeding, but everything almost looks like it's perspirating. Like there's something like ooey and gooey. It's hard to describe, like especially in Watchmen and in 300, where you just see like, even though it has these very like non-subtle colors, there's something very alive and dirty about everything.
It's rainy. It's like Final Showdown.
And like the city
basically
in Watchmen,
looks like a shaggy dog walked in and just shook everything.
It's just like, and then that's the set. Like even like with the words describing it too, like with Rorschach in New York City, like it's just like bloody and dirty and gritty, and it's literally like, it's not even just like, it's not like a cartoon where you put a picture on a screen. It's literally like you took an illustration and it came alive.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what he does with comic book movies. But I'm a huge Batman fan. I always have been. Most people know that. Batman's my favorite superhero. I think Ben Affleck will do justice to the character. I'm excited to see like the little like I guess parts that Wonder Woman and Aquaman are going to have in it. And I'm really excited for Justice League. And I think Marvel has a run for their money, to be honest.
Cool.
I said this a bit ago whenever we reviewed the trailer. I like DC. I used to like Marvel a lot until it started. Like, there was a feel that Marvel started to get, and it just didn't feel right anymore. So I started to just try and go to DC, find out what was what the best of the best from them, and I'm starting to see it. And the one thing though that really irritated me were like a lot of the bandwagon fans, and most of the time, certain bandwagon fans from certain fandoms, they get this weird idea that like something's good because of this, and it's obviously that you're not the person who does their homework. They don't do their homework. Batman's good because Batman. What movies have you seen? Just the Christopher Nolan ones? You never read the books? No? Oh, you're one of them.
One of them.
This movie is going to address something that I've always thought about and never really said, because I just thought, what would be the point? Now they're going to revisit the fact, in my head I've always thought that when it comes right down to it, yes, Batman is a hero, but he's not always specifically a hero. He's supposed to be an anti-hero. Remember, he's still a vigilante. He does things. I mean, he may not kill people, but whenever I compare Superman to Batman, Superman is the guy who, he wants to do the right thing. He knows not a lot of people will accept him, but he tries to do it anyway because he knows it's the right thing. Batman is the guy who's angry at the world because, crime was allowed to take root and it took my parents from me, so I'm going to make sure that it doesn't happen to anybody else. So it's more like, justice versus like righteous anger.
Yeah.
And not a lot of the time, it doesn't feel as though that's being represented enough. I mean, he just seems like a superhero. He doesn't seem like a guy who has this vendetta against the world for not taking, crime as seriously as he does, and he wants to make sure that they understand what's going on out here. So, hopefully this puts him into a perspective where people go, well, that doesn't, I don't feel that that's like a hero. He's just an angry hero. I'm like, that was what he was supposed to be to begin with. So, I like the style, though. It's not so much as bleak as there's a feeling you get whenever you look at like a comic book world, or like a cartoon, and then there's live action movies, and then there's that real weird middle ground where you're like, no, this is the real world. People aren't going to like you because you're a superhero. just because you do good things, that doesn't mean people are going to like you immediately. Superman is going to be the best example of that. And
Spider-Man's been the best example of that for a long time.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you that right away. Yes, I agree with that. But overall, I want to make this very clear to Blake. I never really understood why you liked Superman so much. I mean, that was your preference. Now that I'm starting to have all this put into perspective more, I completely understand. I really completely understand.
It's because you like butt.
Well, no, he's the one superhero that even though he tries to do the right thing, people, don't always like him for it, and yet he still feels that it's his duty to do it, even though he knows he won't get the respect he deserves.
He's I think he's always been emotionally complex, and even though he is an alien, in a lot of ways he's one of the most human of them all. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, because I mean the thing
people misconstrue like him being a nice guy for he can do no wrong.
Right, and people also do the thing about how he's an alien and how people think he's overpowered. They also try to make him out to be the least relatable superhero. Here's the thing. Superman grew up like a normal person. He was raised by 2 parents, grew up on a farm, went to school, had friends. They make him out, like, probably, in my opinion, the least relatable superhero is probably, like, fucking Thor. In the movies, at least. But I'll let you go, because I'm going to get a turn anyway.
I think the greatest line that sums up Superman is the line that teenage Clark Kent says in the first Superman movie about his dad dying. And he says to his mom, he says, I have all these powers, and I couldn't even save them.
Yeah.
Because even with all of his powers, he can't save everyone, and that really hurts him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing about Superman is his emotions.
That, and the fact that when he's a young kid, like normally you're a young kid. If you got superpowers, you'd be like, oh my God, Mom! I'm lifting the couch! Mom! I have the car in my hand! The line where he is told, you're not from this planet, and he starts crying and said, can I just be your son? That hit me hard. I'm like, wow, that really does put into perspective. It's not so much your parents said, hey, congratulations, you're adopted. This is congratulations, you're adopted, and you can do all these really crazy powers, and everyone's going to hate you probably.
Yeah.
It's that
congrats, you're adopted.
Yeah. So I like the real world aspect that he's going to put into this. It's not just a comic book movie. This is an imagining of what happens if this was reality. How would we really perceive this?
Donnie.
You guys talk all the time about how when it comes to Marvel and DC, it's okay to like both. And it is. But it's also okay to not like one. That being said, I've never been a DC fan. I never really cared about the DC universe except for the Batman portion of it. And that's about it. I've always preferred Marvel. That's just me. That's just my personal preference. I like Marvel more.
When you say there can be a difference between not caring for something or not giving it much thought and straight up disliking it?
Yes and no. I mean, it's okay to just not like something.
Okay, we'll continue.
But that being said, the trailer for this movie looks fucking amazing. The second I saw False God written on the Superman statue, I was sold. I think Ben Affleck's going to be an awesome Batman. I love the electronic voice. I think it's easily the best Batman voice ever. I hate Christian Bale's Batman voice. I hate it so much.
The growl.
Doctor.
I hate it.
Through cancer.
It sounds like he's drunk.
That makes me think of the guy
I always drink Gotham Rude.
He always does the spoofs of him. What's his name again? He got his own show.
I forget his name.
He does it for College Humor. He's always Batman.
Oh,
he's really funny.
I just almost everything about this Batman I love. The only thing I don't like is Batman's costume. The Dark Knight Returns costume has always been my least favorite Batman costume. I just think it looks goofy. I hate the bat symbol on it. It looks like a Count Chocula marshmallow. But I'm not going to let that ruin the movie for me. So what if the costume doesn't look that great? It looks like a Batman costume. It's not like he's running around wearing purple and yellow. So it looks like a Batman costume. Fair enough. I just think this movie is just going to be it's going to be something else. I think the last Superman movie, Man of Steel, while not necessarily the greatest superhero movie, it is the greatest Superman movie. So, warming up to him a little bit more. Marvel is still my preference, but I look forward to seeing what DC can do. It'll be nice to have a worthy foe.
I'm going to go into my reaction, and then we can start a crossfire, open discussion about this. I really like this trailer. I was excited for this trailer more than maybe any other movie this year. Just to see a glimpse of this movie. This is one of my most anticipated movies I've had in my entire life. The only hype that came close to this was what I felt for The Dark Knight, what I felt for The Avengers, then what I felt for Man of Steel. Superman is not only my favorite superhero, he's not only my favorite comic book character, he is my favorite fictional character of all time. I learned more from Superman than I did from a lot of shitty teachers I had in school. And Batman, not only my second favorite superhero, not only my second favorite comic book character, Batman is my second favorite fictional character ever. I'm finally getting a movie, and it was exciting enough to get a Superman reboot, to see the retelling of Superman's origin. I remember when I was a little kid, and it was my birthday. I was 10 years old, and my parents got me the Superman and Batman animated movie. And I watched it in that living room, in there, with my pop and my parents. And I was just like, it's Superman. Whoa. But it's Batman, and they're in the same movie together.
Chocolate, and it's peanut butter, and...
Oh, the animated movie?
Yeah. And even as a little kid...
I had that on tape.
And even as a little kid, I'm like, this is awesome. They're in the same movie together. And then I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if one day they make this, but with real people? And...
that dream is coming to fruition.
And 15 years later, that dream will finally be realized.
And come to fruition.
I think this trailer showed a lot of cool stuff. It didn't blow me away as much as maybe it could have.
Well, the problem is that it came out right after the Star Wars trailer.
Right.
It should have waited a little bit.
Right.
As much as I wanted to see it.
Yes. And I think I love Zack Snyder. I think he is an amazing director. He just needs a good script behind him. I think the biggest problem with Man of Steel was that it was Zack Snyder trying to make a Zack Snyder movie in the shadow of a Christopher Nolan film. He had the cinematographer from the Transformers series. Now, his director of photography, Larry Fong, who shot 300, Watchmen, Sucker Punch, and even did J.J. Abrams' Super 8, he is behind the camera of this movie. This may end up being the most DC-looking DC movie ever made. One of the most comic book-looking movies ever made. And I think Ben Affleck, wow, what a fucking huge beefcake.
Beefy.
My God.
Cook it up and put it on my plate.
My God, look at that torso. And I'm sorry, Donnie, I love the Frank Miller suit. I love the Dark Knight Returns suit. It is the most Batman-y Batman suit ever.
It's the closest thing
I guess if you're into
Bat.
Count Chocula. I like Count Chocula too.
I'm
a little upset that they only sell it during October.
I love that. They do?
It's the only time I ever see it.
I love that symbol. I just want to rip it off his chest and bite it. It just looks so juicy. The symbol, not his chest.
It looks crunchy, sure.
And we see shots of Batman. Is it a drone? Is it the Batwing? I don't know what it is. It's shooting up the place. We see the Batmobile flying through, or cruising through explosions. We see him stepping out of this rubble. And this is a Batman that isn't going to take shit from anybody. This is a Batman that is fucking sick of your shit.
Well, it's one of those things is like...
Well, let's start the open discussion now.
We know he's the Frank Miller Batman. And Frank Miller Batman...
Damn it.
We gotta answer the phone.
Every time.
You gonna pause it?
No.
Well, the Frank Miller Batman is known for being very brutal.
Yeah.
Like, he'll, beat you to a pulp. And that's what I want to see. And I'm sure that's what we're going to get. And that kind of shows more the opposition. So maybe for a good portion of the movie, Batman's very antagonistic.
Yeah.
And And like even like the line he says to Superman, he's like, "Tell me, do you bleed? You will." Like, and it's like talking about being cruel and stuff. Like the line Alfred says, like Well, that's the thing. During the Silver Age of comics, they really dumbed down Batman. Like the Adam West Batman in the '60s was kind of accurate to how he was at the time. Like Silver Age really kind of slowed stuff down. Like they made the blues on Batman very blue. He had Robin with him all the time. He was very like campy. The Dark Knight Returns is the book that people always said that brought Batman back to the dark side. Like it made him dark again, made him gritty. It's what inspired the Tim Burton '89 Batman movie. And that's what gave Batman kind of his darkness again. And that's an important book to address.
Yeah.
Because it's arguably his most famous book.
It is.
And then like even in the other movie they're doing Suicide Squad, everybody thinks that the Joker and that is going to be the Dark Knight Returns Joker. And there's even a picture. There was a picture I saw where Jared Leto is showing his camera.
Yeah,
I think it's to Margot Robbie, or it might be just some other blonde girl. But they zoomed in on the screen, so it's like a screen within a screen of his camera, and you can see the Joker wearing a white tux, and he wears a white tux in The Dark Knight Returns. So and that's the thing with Frank Miller. Frank Miller, as gritty as does, he doesn't get very realistic. So there's going to be a really edgy, very comic booky feel.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see that.
I want to see a Batman that breaks into the apartment of a child molester and breaks his legs. Yeah. I want to see that Batman.
Calls the cops from that man's phone, leaves, no trace of evidence. They just walk in and see a child molester with his legs broken.
Well,
it's Batman again.
When the big rumor is that I think is amazing is that in this universe, as long as he's been around, because they said it's going to be an older Batman,
a veteran,
is that he's still a myth.
Yeah.
Like, there is no, like, according to the sources and stuff like that, there's no evidence that Batman even exists.
Like he's like Sasquatch.
He's been operating for 20 years, and they have no evidence. Like they kind of make it out that like the Joker, I guess Commissioner Gordon, and like just a handful of people are the only people that have actually met him. And I think that's the really creepy thing.
Urban legend.
And that's kind of the mystique of Batman, is that if you think through a criminal's point of view and people in that world's point of view, they think Batman's supernatural. They think he's some kind of demonic monster or something that comes out of the dark and goes after people who do terrible things. That's one of the great things about Batman, is that they don't know he's just a person.
Yeah.
It's like what they say in like Batman Begins, becoming a symbol. As a symbol, I can become incorruptible. I can become everlasting.
Yeah. And we brought up how J.J. Abrams has taken the chance to direct the movie he's wanted to make his whole life, which is Star Wars. A lot of people don't know this. The Dark Knight Returns is the one book, despite Watchmen, despite 300, this is the book that Zack Snyder has wanted to make his entire life.
Yeah.
And he's finally doing it.
Yeah, he loves The Dark Knight Returns and Frank Miller.
Yeah. I think I think you were trying to touch on this too, Kogel, was that the movies are finally getting to show mainstream audiences the angle of Superman being seen as a messiah figure, a savior, like Donnie said, with the false god spray painted on the statue. And I think that's cool.
Yeah. The one thing, though, that I saw from the trailer, and I started to see the beginnings of in the Man of Steel, was I have always, ever since I was young, I've had a sore spot, or a soft spot, if you will.
A sore spot.
I've always had a soft spot for the underdog.
I've had a growth.
I've always had a soft spot for the underdog. And 9 times out of 10 when I was younger, I always thought Batman was the underdog. He was a man taking the law into his own hands, making sure that the streets were safe, even though the cops were trying to do that job. Now, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to see the reality of it, how we as a people would view superheroes. Superman's pretty much the underdog. We as a people, we will usually respect a human for doing things a superhero can do more as opposed to a superhero with all these God-given powers already trying to do things to help us. I always imagine Superman's like, I just want to help. And he legitimately just wants to help. And they're like, no, you're different. And then here comes Batman. I can save the day. Like, yeah, he can do it. Well, what makes him different than me? Well, he's a human. Well, that's not fair. It kind of touches on racism a little bit. On the level that, yeah, they're different, like, planetary races, but still, there's technically almost no difference.
Well, because he's an alien, people assume that he's an invader and wants to enslave us and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think that this movie universe is kind of touching on the way how a lot of Muslims were being unfairly treated post 9/11 was, if you're a Muslim or, if you're from that area of the world, you're automatically a terrorist.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very good angle.
That a superhero is getting treated the same way we are.
Yeah.
It's so... the amount of reality that they're trying to put into this it's enough that it's not annoying, but it's enough that I actually appreciate this is how it would happen.
Yeah. And that's something that Marvel isn't doing. Because Iron Man 1, you get his origin story, and he reveals himself to the world. And then in the sequels, everyone's just like, okay. And they're all cool with him being Iron Man. In the movies. I'm talking about the movies. And then with Captain America wakes up, and the world just kind of is like, okay, yeah, cool.
I mean, he's spooked at first, and then he just like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and punch a punching bag into oblivion so I can forget all
and
this.
And Batman versus Superman takes place a couple years after Man of Steel, and people just are not sure if they like this guy.
Yeah.
And Donnie, explain how you feel, what angle you feel Batman is going to come by, what you predicted was going to happen with Batman's angle towards Superman.
He's going to be humanity's answer to thanks, but we can take care of ourselves.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better.
Like the thing with Marvel, especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they just kind of want you to have a good time and them to be like fun blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
I think DC, in a lot of ways, not always, but I think in a lot of ways, even in the comics lately, DC always tries to be more intellectual, more thought-provoking.
And I'm fine with both. I'm fine with going to one and having that be like the fun one, and I'm fine with going to the other one and having that be the serious one. I want them to be different. Why would we want Marvel and DC to be the same? Mm-hmm. What's the point then? I want to have two completely different sides. But I don't want to turn into sports teams. I don't want that.
That'd be dumb.
But, yeah, and Donnie, you were saying how most of this is going to be a misunderstanding. Tensions are going to be rising. Batman's like, what the fuck do I do? And Superman's like, there's this guy who, like, fucking hunts out.
They're not fighting because one's scared of the other. They're fighting because they're both scared.
And Zack Snyder pointed out, the reason why they dropped the S in the verses was they didn't want it to look like a wrestling match. I don't know if you know this, but in law cases, in court cases, they just use the V. This is not only a battle of strength, this is a battle of ideals.
Yeah.
I think Superman's going to see how violent Batman could be like, hey, you shouldn't do that. Batman's going to be like, well, you're a hypocrite. You're the dude who cracked your own con, cracked the neck of your own guy.
Yeah.
And I just think this plot is going to be really interesting. But yeah, if anybody had any other closing thoughts,
what I want to see with the new Joker, since Superman killed General Zod, I want to see Batman contemplate killing the Joker, but go to Superman on what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And
the funny thing is, in The Dark Knight Returns, spoiler for the book, is that the Joker kills himself and makes it look like Batman did it.
Yeah. And if you haven't read The Dark Knight Returns, it's been out for 30 years, but you should
took my job!
You should totally read it. But I'm not only excited to see this movie, I'm not only excited to see them fight, I'm excited to see, more than anything, to see them team up. I want to see my two favorite characters of all time team up in a fight so that you could see the look on the bad guy's face and be like, fuck, that guy is screwed.
My thing is like, by the end of that movie, you know it's going to happen.
And no, Henry Cavill revealed...
And then the next movie, we're going to see them with 4 other people teamed up.
And I want to see the handshake, the firm handshake that they give each other. And do you think that after this movie, and even with Justice League movies, they should make another Batman and Superman movie where it just focuses on them being teamed up the whole time?
Well,
make a World's Finest movie? Or would it be redundant
No.
since they introduced the Justice League?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but I think like once they go big and have them teamed up with everybody else, just make a couple Justice League movies. What I want to see is later down the road, I want to see a solo Batman movie with Ben Affleck because we kind of.
Yeah, that isn't something they've really touched on yet.
We kind of.
They said
they said they will, but we don't know who's going to make it and stuff like that. But that's like more down the road.
They are going to make a solo Batman movie, and they are going to make an actual Superman sequel. They are doing that.
But the thing I'm really interested in is touching into Batman's mythology, because with Nolan, I love the Dark Knight trilogy, but he had his own specific vision where it was grounded in reality, and he didn't want to touch on a lot of villains that he said. He didn't even want to do the Penguin. And like
he didn't want to do Catwoman at
with
first.
this, doing a comic book world with like Aquaman and Wonder Woman, you can have Batman's more colorful villains like Mr. Freeze or Clayface or Poison Ivy, but actually do them justice and make it dark and serious.
Yeah. Even though in Nolan's trilogy there was like some villains that he did do in a realistic way, I think in some ways were just as good, if not better.
Well, yeah, but there were some characters that he just didn't want to do.
And there was some that he just couldn't do.
Yeah, some he couldn't do or didn't want to do. But now we can, because now we're really in like a comic book world. It's not seeing... The Dark Knight trilogy was very much as what if Batman was in the real world.
Yeah.
And this is basically now bringing the comic book alive. Like, this is the real world or whatever. So I'm really curious to see, like, if they do any, like, the off-the-wall stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the Arkham games where they kind of do everything, but they make it, like, dark and serious. That'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because there are a good bit of villains in the Dark Knight Returns he fights.
Yeah, Scarecrow, Joker,
Scareface.
Two-Face.
Scarecrow's not in the Dark Knight Returns, is he?
No.
Oh,
No.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant the Dark Knight trilogy. My bad.
No. Two-Face. He fights Two-Face. I want to see Two-Face done again because we didn't really get that much of him in the Dark Knight.
That made me sad.
We know we're going to get the Joker. We know that. The Joker's awesome, but we know we're going to get him.
We're probably going to get the Riddler, too.
Yeah, because, there is a Riddler Easter egg in the trailer. That shot where Batman's in that empty building or something and the lightning's going off.
Looks like
and
it's
he's looking
under
up.
a bridge.
Looks like it's under a bridge or an old subway station or something. There's a column and there's a spray painted question mark, but it's totally the way it's curved and stuff. It's the Riddler symbol, and it is green. Nice little Easter egg, but what I want to see, and like you said, we will probably get the Riddler because people kept asking for him in the last, and they didn't get him. So they're like, okay, we're gonna do the Riddler. Didn't get him since the '90s. What I want to see more than anything with Batman is I want to see Mr. Freeze, and I want to see Mr. Freeze done right.
Like how he was in the animated series.
How he was in the animated series.
Because that's the animated... Because before that, he was cheesy and he didn't have an origin in the comics.
Yeah.
Paul Dini and the animated series crew, they're the ones... Like, the first episode, he was in Heart of Ice. They made up that origin with his wife and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're the one that gave Mr. Freeze depth.
Yeah.
And made him dark.
So in the early 90s, they sent Mr. Freeze forward, and then at the end of the 90s, they set him back.
You're not sending me to the cooler.
He took
5 steps forward and 10 steps back.
And a kick in the nuts. And I want to see...
Yeah.
And I want it... Yeah. I want to see Mr. Freeze so bad.
So do I.
So
I like
bad.
to see Mr. Freeze and Clayface.
Yeah.
Clayface. And that's what I love about... And that's what Christopher Nolan wouldn't do. Christopher Nolan's going to be like... And he wanted to make a Batman in a post-9/11 world as an anti-terrorist. And I get that. That's fine. But Zack Snyder's like, we can do whatever the fuck we want. And I love it.
Well, that's the thing. It's the comic book coming alive.
Yeah.
Nolan's thing's wonderful. It's what if Batman was in the real world, basically.
Yeah.
But this is just the comic book turned into a movie.
And he wears this slim armor and stuff. Zack Snyder's like, you know what? I'm going to give you the Batman that's bigger than a goddamn house.
But that's the thing. That's the cool thing. He has 2 suits. He's got like the traditional suit, and he has the armor that makes sense to why he would wear that. Yeah. I kind of hope that he wears the armor for the majority of the Justice League, since everybody else has superpowers.
He's got to keep
it
up
makes
with
sense
them.
to keep up with them and like wear like armor to help fight.
Yeah, because you have like an alien sun god, an Amazon queen, a sea lord,
the king of Atlantis, who's like Poseidon,
and the man who lives in between the speed of a second.
Yeah,
and
a guy with a power wing that can create anything.
Yeah,
which, by the way, if had they mentioned what direction they're going,
there's no.
You already know my thoughts on that.
Yeah, with Chris Pine being the Green Lantern, that would be amazing.
I like that. I was saying the other thing where
you wanted Jon Stewart.
I want Jon Stewart. Because the other Green Lanterns
always
felt like...
He's busy hosting the Daily Show right now.
He's about to quit the Daily Show.
That's true.
But no.
And he's got a black face.
I just... The only reason I liked Jon Stewart Green Lantern over like the other Green Lanterns, every time I've always seen Jon Stewart Green Lantern, he didn't take shit from anybody.
Yeah.
He always seemed... Not angry. He just always seemed grumpy. Like, he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to do the right thing. But there was always that one, where the villain always thinks, I'm going to get leeway from the superhero. And he was like, bitch!
We also keep forgetting, speaking of an African-American superhero, we keep forgetting that Cyborg is in this universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I kind of keep forgetting that he's going to be in there.
I kind of keep forgetting that he even exists.
Well, I'm one of those people, I like the character Cyborg, but I liked him better in Teen Titans. And I wasn't a fan when the New 52 came around and they replaced Martian Manhunter with him. I was never a fan of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Martian Manhunter was like my favorite other than Superman.
I honestly
now,
I'm not trying to sound racist. I honestly felt like they just did that to put some more ethnicity in the group.
Well, yeah.
And that like Superman and Martian Manhunter were both aliens. So they're like, oh, well, let's just have one alien on the team. And I don't know, it's just like Cyborg, like he's a tech guy. Batman relies on technology, and it's just like, I guess they try to make him like the young guy in the group or whatever. But
that was and like,
honestly, if you were going to replace Martian Manhunter, I feel like there were so many other DC heroes that would have been a better pick.
It was them trying to be progressive. It's like they're doing the first female superhero movie, Wonder Woman. They're beating Ms. Marvel to the punch. And also, it's like, well, with what's going on today in the news and stuff.
Well, it's not the first female superhero movie.
Supergirl.
There's Supergirl. There's
Supergirl.
Elektra. There's Catwoman. What the thing they should be trying to do is the first successful female superhero movie. Because all of them have been failures and flops.
And also with what's going on, they were like, well, let's mix things up and add in a black teenager. And I think that is a cool angle, but I can't get that excited about Cyborg. I think he fits more with the Teen Titans, hence he's a teenager. And I've never been that big a fan of him. I like the Jon Stewart Green Lantern. I'm all about Johnny Storm being African American. It's just the character of Cyborg. He's a half robot guy. Like, we've seen that before.
Well, my thing is like, and like, there's Iron Man and the Avengers.
Yeah.
My thing is like, there was other African American characters they could have picked. They could have picked like Black Lightning or Static Shock.
And in my opinion,
I would have been cool with Static Shock.
Oh,
that's who Black Lightning is. Static Shock was based on Black Lightning.
Yeah.
Who was from DC. They just made him a teenager and changed his name. That's basically who he was. And yeah, you could do the Jon Stewart Green Lantern. Like, there was a lot of other characters they could have done. Like, it even had like characters that are on the Justice League, but they're not the original 7 lineup. It's like, just have like Hawkman. It's like there was just so many better choices that they could have done than Cyborg, and that's not the movie's fault. They're doing what the New 52 does because that's the current comic that's like selling right now. They're just
technically they could have, if anything, they could have done Hawkman and changed his ethnicity since he's based on Egyptian myth, Egypt and Africa.
I just don't like, out of everyone who got bumped out, it's the one that like I started liking. I always liked Martian Manhunter because Clark Kent grew up on Earth. He at least knows how to mingle with other humans if they don't know he's an alien.
Yeah.
John Jones, or Martian Manhunter, he doesn't. He comes from a completely different place. And I liked how his mentality and his way that he tackles things was different from the whole entire team. He was always the real quiet, a little bit more well thought out, deep voiced. He was kind of like he was the wise... Like, I don't want to call him the old guy, but he felt like he was like the wise old guy alongside of, like Clark Kent, where he might look young, but he always has that like old world feel to him. And then you had Martian Manhunter, where you always felt like whatever he was telling you, it was pretty damn legit. Like, you knew he knew his shit. And then all of a sudden they get rid of him, and then they replace him with, Cyborg. It doesn't matter who they replaced him with. The fact is, in my opinion, they replaced him. I was like,
fair.
Bitch.
That's fair. But I think overall, I'm just glad there is going to be a DC cinematic universe. I just think it's great. I'm excited for this movie. I'm excited for this universe. When I hear that there will come a day when Marvel has 3 movies a year and DC has 3 movies a year, my first response will be, awesome. That just means there's 6 movies I get to be excited for this year. And I look forward to that. I'm looking forward to the competition, the back and forth. But, if anybody else had any closing statements, I think we'll just end it there. Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm Blake Jones. You can find me online on both Twitter and Tumblr at Blake V. Jones.
I'm Donnie Johnson. You can find me on Twitter as well at TheDonJohn1991. Also, make sure you follow Pooka Saucy on Twitter at Pooka Saucy. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Spread the word around.
Zachary Kogel. You can find me on YouTube at Gilzilla. I'm also on Twitter at Gilzilla. And I'm on Tumblr. You can follow, what is it? I haven't checked it in like a while now. I think it's System Lumbra. Yeah, it's System Lumbra. And I'm also on SoundCloud, Guile, Gyle.
All links in the description.
I'm Mike Whedon. You can find me at Twitter and Instagram under M. Whedon. And I'm also Tumblr at Blood in the Abyss. That's all one word.
Follow us! Pay us!
Crunk, would you have some final words?
And as we say here on the Fat Minute, stay saucy.